everybody. Episode 2. Wait, does this even have an episode? No, but it says life high on Flamin' Hot Cheetos and beer. Actually, it should say cheap American beer because I have to be honest with you. I do not want to eat my beer, and that's what happens when you are drinking craft beer. You feel like you're having a meal, and I just want, and I think it's really yuppie, which is such a funny saying because I don't even think that yuppies exist anymore, but I do not like really good beer. I like beer that has alcohol in it and basically tastes like carbonated water. It's like Perrier with alcohol. Actually, that's a great idea. Perrier with alcohol. Like it just literally tastes like soda water, but you get drunk. I call that win-win. Anyway, hi everybody. Oh, there's people in there. It makes me so happy. It actually does. I can't wait to tell you what's been going on. I really can't. You're like, we can. Hi, Jan. Hi, Christine. Hi, Freedom and Alone. And Alone. And hi, Miss Dahlia. I cannot say the name. Hello from Brazil. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry. I want to so bad, but I don't want to risk it. It's really risky to say a name and then get it wrong. And Trishy. Hi, Trishy. I have a part today, you guys, that is called What Kristen and Trishy Say. That's a segment today because like they inform me of what I'm supposed to talk about. You're like, well, I don't think you probably stay on track. Okay, I know. So anyway, this week has been rather lackluster, except for the part where my internet was being, you guys, it's not my internet personally. It's like the internet from all the towers being down. And so it's just very finicky and it just pisses me off so much because then I'll make a live stream and I go to all that effort. And like this time it actually, I did a live stream for stabilizing these boas. So these things right here, because this is just how it comes off the sheep. Thanks, sweetheart. I was like, who's opening my door? It reminded me of like the Addams Family. Who rang? You rang. Who rang? You rang. You rang. Anyway, moving on. So it comes off the animal just like this. Like it comes off in big sheets when they're shorn, especially when they're long. But anyway, how to stabilize these so that they don't pull apart because this wood, you could just pull it off and spin it. Okay, moving on. You're like, wow, that was really thrilling, Natalie. So this is the deal. The internet situation, it was pissing me off so bad. And then you guys, this is, sometimes I honestly think people must think I'm stupid because I said that my new classes, I have a new class called If It's Broke, Fix It. And it's about fixing problems in your dye pot. And online, I put one date, and then in the teaser, I put another date. And so Kristen, of course, notices it. But after it's been up for, because, she's assuming that I'm going to do things right. Which I'm guessing after her being with me for over a year, she's realizing, well, maybe I should check on everything. But anyhow, so she's like, Natalie, exactly what date is it starting? Because you have 2 different dates. And I was just like, okay, let's just, because then if I would have started at the earlier date, then people, because a lot of people actually, this is hard to believe because I'm not a person that would do this, but they will add the class like the morning of the class, and you have to have links to it. So thank God Kristen's on it because she'll like look up until the last possible moment to make sure, and people like a minute before class will sign up. Anyhow, so then she had to send out a letter, and I actually should have done it because it's an apology letter, right? Because I'm sure people scheduled around it, and now I'm moving it for an entire week. Because I didn't want the people that were going to do last minute not to be able to get it in, because there's no point having a class if nobody's enrolled in it, right? The point of having a class. But anyway, if it's broke, fix it is going to be a really great class. And so I was so I tied one on with you guys. I tied one on with my husband, and so hard on Saturday night, and I had to work on Sunday. And normally I can do it, but I got to be honest with you, I mean, you can't, dyeing without wash and dye is like, it makes things really dull looking. And so I dyed this, during class I'm teaching people how to dye, so obviously I'm dyeing. So anyway, I was dyeing this fleece, and it's looking really good in the pot, and then I, dump my pots, and it's drying outside, and I'm looking at it going, gosh, it doesn't look very good, like, it really doesn't, it's really not very bright, and it's because I forgot to put wash and dye in it. That's the first time I've ever done that in 3.5 years of teaching. I've never done that. You're like, wow, you must have partied. Oh my God, I'm so glad you guys reminded me. But anyway, the fleeces are really nice. They're very, very long. So these are long old fleeces, and they have a lot of luster. It would look amazing if I had remembered to put wash and dye in it, but of course I didn't. It's still wet. It smells like a wet dog. Okay, so listen. So I had these people, so I told you, Saturday night, my husband and I are like we're partying upstairs in our bedroom, naked, having a great time. And I hear the dog going crazy, the dog barking really, really bad, and it's like 7 o'clock. And so I can't help, I'm like, I got it because I think my Airbnb, but neither of the cottages, the people had come yet. So and there's a lake, like to get there to this road is a lake, the side road, which is the way that they get in. But I let them know, you guys drive down, make sure you stay on the left side of the road. I try to be really specific. So anyway, I look outside and I see my son Connery, and I'm not gonna lie, Connery's a little weird, and I'm worried. And he's not wearing any shoes. He looks like Agador Spartacus from the movie The Birdcage. He totally looks like Agador. So I say to Sean, Sean, I gotta go. We're like and I'm naked, but I grab this trench coat, I throw it on, I throw my belt on, and I run outside. And first of all, I'm slightly hammered, and I'm trying to be as nice, and people are super, super nice, but they parked in the wrong place, and I was trying to explain to them, actually, you drive around, etc. And then the first thing that the woman says is, does the stove work? And the stove does work, but we turn the pilot light off, and it's one of these old stoves. It's like old, it's like a reproduction vintage, but it itself is vintage. It's like from the 1970s, and it looks like a wood burning stove, but it's really, I guess, hard to turn the pilot lights on. And I looked at her and I said, I just lied. I said, actually, I don't know what made me, it was alcohol, I'm sure. Or anyway, I said, actually, there was a lady that stayed here and she had an infant and she was afraid that they'd get carbon monoxide poisoning. You're like, wow, you come up with the doozies. Yeah, I do. I don't lie very often, but when I do, I come up with good ones. And I was like, and so we turned it off for her. And I actually don't know how to turn it back on. But what can I get you anything? Is there anything that you need? Like I can reheat it for you. What is it? And they said, and then they bring out a cup of noodles, and then these packaged, I know, packaged, like frozen pizza rolls, those frozen pizza rolls. So I then say, oh, don't worry, I'll go, here, you can make hot water. There's like one of those European hot water things where you just, there's a garbage truck got in a wreck right out front. And that's what I'm hearing. Anyway, you're probably hearing it too. They'll be leaving. Anyway, so I there's one of those European hot water things, and I said, that's right here, but I'll go get you a toaster oven. So I ran in the house, and I had to find our toaster oven, first of all. I find our toaster oven. And then after finding our toaster oven, I realized that it is so disgusting. I don't think anyone's ever cleaned that toaster oven. Ever. Never. So then I have to clean the toaster oven. So now time's gone by, right? It's like been a half an hour since I've seen my husband. I'm like, well, there goes our night, right? So I go out. So then I bring them the toaster oven, and I decide that I'm going to put tortillas and cheese, and I'm going to give them like other food because they said they were extremely hungry. So I bring that out to them. They barely open the door and try to get this little toaster oven, like they don't want me to see them now. And I'm like, oh, I'm glad they're having fun since they've ruined mine, right? I go in the next day to clean it, you guys. I swear to you, I thought somebody slaughtered a chicken. I'm not kidding you. It was like a chicken was slaughtered. There were feathers, black feathers everywhere. And I was like, did a chicken get in here and the dog kill it? That's how many feathers were in my cottage. And you have to understand, the furniture is really expensive. You're like, why would you have expensive furniture? Because that's what was in there before it was Airbnb. So I'm completely at a loss for what is going on and why all these feathers are. And so then I climb up into the loft and I look and I see potato chips. Like, they eat real healthy, obviously. There's potato chips like right next to the bed, but they're all like crumpled, like they've been eating potato chips in bed. And there's feathers. I realized when they had sex, they had like feather something. And there are the feathers, obviously, I'm just guessing that it wasn't a very high quality, whatever it was. And so this is why there's feathers everywhere. You guys, there was so much down. There was just, I don't think I'm ever going to get rid of it. I don't think I will ever. I think I will be finding down and feathers in that place because, you go to like vacuum it or you go to dust it and it flies up in the air. So even after, I went in there with one of those, like, those handheld, they're like, they have this long tube. You're like, you're always so sexual. The long tube, and then you plug them in and it's like a vacuum, but it's, anyway, one of those. So I have one of those, and I worked in there for an hour and a half. You think I'm lying, and I'm not. It was ridiculous. So of course, then I'm one of these people that I don't like to leave people bad feedback. I don't. And Airbnb is very smart. What they do is, you can't read someone else's feedback unless you've left feedback. So both people have to leave it before anyone can read it. And so what I usually do typically is I just don't leave anything, unless they leave me something, and then I'll leave something that's really kind of like, I don't ever say what they've done. I'm usually, because I'm so glad they're gone. Why even okay, let me read. I gotta see if anybody's saying anything. Okay. Trishy's saying, oh my God. No, I'm dead serious, you guys. So, and then I'm like, it's that thing where you want to write a thing saying, and if you, in the listing, please don't use feathers when having sex. Seriously, I want you to know though, I washed everything. I literally gutted the place. Anything that you could take off and wash, I washed, because I was sure that they were wandering around having sex everywhere. And I noticed all the cushions were on, backwards on the couch. I'm like, and then they looked like they had spilt champagne on the floor. You're like, wow. I mean, I'm serious. These were only 2, and they actually were really nice. But they were young. They were I think when you're that young, and I remember being like this, you don't realize that someone actually owns this stuff. That sounds ridiculous. You're like, wow, you were really empathetic when you were young. But no, you just kind of it's someone else's problem, which brings me to this road. So anyway, this road on the side, that this garbage truck, a giant garbage truck, I heard this, it was like a huge metal hitting metal. And then this garbage truck has been out there for, I want to say 3 hours. But this road is a complete lake, because there's a nursery at the end of it, and they have semis, and they have an easement through, I think this was all one property. And so I live on a corner lot. And so it literally becomes, I can't even tell you how, it's this deep on one side. And people are so stupid, they'll have their Prius and they'll think they're going to drive. If you can't see how deep it is, do not drive through it. Because I can't tell you how many times people have had to be drug out of there with a tow truck. Anyhow, we get a new neighbor, and I'm like, great, now am I going to have someone having a PA system or whatever. Anyway, and everybody, I just want you to know, people around here, it's not, they think I'm insane, because if they're really loud, I will say something. If they're gonna, I have no problem. And so they think that I'm not very nice. And it's but I live here, and I don't want to hear, I just don't want to hear PA systems. That's the big one. And I don't want to have you have your music, when your workers are working it really loud, and especially if it's Mexican polka music, I can't take it. It's my ADD, and I have misophonia. I can't take it. So anyway, this guy is really tall. He's 6'6". He comes up to my property, and he's like, are you Natalie? And of course I'm thinking, is it census? Who is it? And I'm like, yes, what can I do for you? I'm not being very pleasant. And then he says, well, I'm your new neighbor. And I said, okay. I said, it's a pleasure to meet you. And I know he's had to have heard stories about me, right? And so, he says, I just wanted to introduce myself and ask you if you'd mind if I got a dumpster and removed all the branches, and because our dumpster, around our dumpster is from cutting trees, and just it's not a mess. It's but it's piles of stuff that actually need to go. But to get one of those huge dumpsters, it would cost a lot of money. So we don't have it. So we just try to chip away at it and put it in. There's a regular sized dumpster every week, but not the big humongous ones. Those are I want to say $600 each. So he says, do you mind if, and I was like, actually, no, I don't mind. And he said, yeah. I said, is it bothering you? And he said, actually, it is bothering me, because I'm kind of a neatnik, and I like things really neat. I was like, oh my God, how nice of him. And he's like, and I'll have my guys come over with their tractor and remove it all. Seriously. I actually felt guilty. I was like, well, I don't know what I could offer you. I don't know, maybe I could offer you a sheep. I can work. I said, I'm a really hard worker. I could do something, but I felt really bad because someone was actually being nice and not expecting anything. If you wait long enough, somebody will pick up your trash is the message. Just kidding. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. So I was showing this to Trishy. I made this hat, but this is a weird stitch. So I saw this stitch. I don't know what it's called, and I know I have a friend who's an expert knitter, and she's never seen it either. And I don't know how close did you like how so I want to show it to you, but I don't know how close I can get. I don't want to, can you guys see this? It's the weirdest stitch. Can you see? It's so weird. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just going to hold it up kind of close. My husband says not to do that, but I'm going to do it anyway. I want to show it to you because maybe someone will know what it is. It's weird. I can take a picture of it and put it on Facebook. So anyway, I dyed this yarn. I have this thing that's kind of, I used to really have a bias against speckle yarn, and Trisha was like, stop bagging on speckle yarn, stop bagging on speckle yarn. It's super cute. Stop bagging on speckle yarn, stop bagging on speckle yarn. So I finally started making it. And then once I made it, I was like, maybe I don't hate it so much. It's kind of cute, huh, this hat. So anyway, the thing with this hat is I never use hat patterns. You're like, really? We couldn't have I couldn't really tell. But no, I don't use hat patterns. I just, once I get to up to about 4 inches, I start decreasing. That's what I do. And this was, I saw on Pinterest, it was that this pattern of stitch was on a scarf. And then I just changed it into a hat. But it's super cute. You're like, wow, we don't care. But I want to know if someone knows what that stitch is, if you could see it, and if not, I will make a picture of it because I've never done that and put it on Facebook. You're like, so you can't actually finish a project and not rip it out. Yes. Do you know what it is? You know that one, but you're blanking on the name? Hi, Jessica. Okay, it's not crochet. It's definitely knit because I did it. That would be so funny. Carol would be like, everybody would be like, that's crochet. And then I'd be like, oops. I stole that hat from someone and just thought it was knit. No, it's knit because I did it. Okay, so let's talk about this. We have to change, if we're gonna go move from the introduction, which that was, I have to bring, okay. I really want to talk about dickheads and scissors, but I might have to wait for that because I don't know if we're close enough yet. My husband said it's a little iffy, Natalie. They might think you're crazy. Short rows and foot rot. Short rows and foot rot. Does anybody know who Pat Henley is? She's on Facebook. This lady is so good. She is so good at knitting. She's a master knitter. And so what happened was I wanted to knit this pattern. I think I talked about it. Kristen Davidson. We're going to do a knit along. But before we do the knit along, like I wanted to see how, you know, tough this sweater was going to be. It's super simple looking, and I'm just going to say for the record, it needs to be. Because first of all, I don't like to wear colors around my face. So can you guys see that? So it is Junko. It's Junko Okamoto Igawa. That's the pattern. She used a fingering weight yarn. And I want to say a size 5 needle. Because I am a loose knitter, so I went down to a 4 needle and up to a DK weight yarn. And this, you guys, this yarn, one of them, I dyed this. I dyed this gradient. So this is, I already balled this one, so it goes from dark. It's easier for me to hold these ones. You're like, wow, why don't you disconnect the computer? You're like, wow, you really skein those nicely. Well, after you dye them, like, I mean, I would have had to like spend like 300 or 400 seconds fixing them, and I didn't want to. So, so it's going to be this, it's going to be a gradient, and it's going to be, obviously, you're like, it's going to be gray, really? Yes, it's going to be gray. And I'm going to put like, instead of hers she doesn't have any, hers is all stockinette. But what I like is that it has this, it has like a raised, like a stockinette on the sleeve that looks like a seam. It's pretty awesome. But I'm just going to tell you, I started it 3 times. This is my 4th. Because, here it is. Because I'm just going to say, it's so frustrating to, like, I know that people already know this, but I don't remember when I used to knit a lot having any inconsistencies in the way that the patterns are written. So like if somebody says slip the main marker, but then they don't say slip the main marker in the next one, but you know you're going to have to slip the main marker, like you're knitting and you're like, okay, well, why didn't she say slip the main marker? Does that mean that I should have done a short row and went the other way? Do you see that kind of stuff? So that's what happened in this. I'm just going to say for the record, Kristen, if you're going to make this with me, then you're going to be really happy that I talked to Pat Henley. Because Pat teaches knitting, and among other things. And one of the things she was saying is that the first thing she does is she sits there and she goes through the pattern, which I did, but she literally tries to imagine the entire thing, like as if she was knitting it so that she can make notes. So like really visualize it. And after talking to her today, I realized that the reason why I keep ripping everything out is because I used to knit because I wanted the project. I wanted whatever it was that I saw, I wanted that. And I didn't care how I got there, I just wanted to get there. Now I care about the knowledge and the intellectual aspects of it, like actually really being precise and particular. And it's sort of the same thing. I've talked about this when I've talked about shearing. Okay, for those of you who've never sheared a sheep, it is a very difficult job. They're like 240 pounds, 280 pounds, mine are. And the shears that I use, I have a solid down tube, so it's like, they're solid, and there's a very narrow area that you can stand. It's probably like 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet because this is a solid down tube. And so it's not like a cord where you can move around the plywood platform. You have to stay in this very small area, which is hard because the sheep is trying to get away the entire time. And when I first started shearing, I just wanted to get through it. Like, I just didn't care. As long as my fleece was good and the animal wasn't, I didn't kill the animal, like, I was happy. And then after, I'm not kidding you, it sounds ridiculous, but it took years. It took years for me to get past that. And it's not like I was shearing 1 or 2 a year. I was shearing like, you know, maybe 600 times a year. 600, which is nothing because the guy that I flew a guy from Wisconsin to teach me how to shear, even though I'd been shearing for like a year or 2, and I then realized the way that I sheared wasn't very efficient, and so it was taking me too long. And when you take too long, the animals get really pissed off and they fight even more, and it was really frustrating. And so I hired him to come out here. His name's David Keir, and he's in Wisconsin, and he's a really well-known shearer in that area. A super good guy, and you know, he's sheared all over the world. And the most he's ever done is 367 in a day. You guys, 367 sheep in a day. 360, I just think about that. That's insane. Like, I used to be, you know, before I heard that, I would be proud of myself at 20. But the thing is that I have to drag them, you know, he's having someone bring him the sheep, and then he has a chute where he can shove them through, and he has someone cleaning up the fleece for me. I have to, you know, take their blankets off. I have to go get them. I have to drag them to the stand. I have to blow them off, take their blankets off. Then, you know, I trim their feet. And so it takes me, you know, it takes me several, you know, it could take me, it depends on how much they fight. That could take me a half an hour. So like 20 in a day, and that would be a Vicodin night. But anyway, as time went on shearing, I started trying to get better. I mean, like, really better. I already was really good with my fleeces, not having a lot of second cuts. I have a really good hand, I think that's part of the ADD, is like the contour of their body. Like, you learn the contour of their body, and you just, it becomes this, there's a lot of finesse involved. It actually isn't strength, it's finesse. And so even though I only weigh like 120 pounds, I'm able to handle really large animals because it's using their own body weight against them. But that also takes a really long time. But as time went on, I really started caring about it sounds stupid because it's such a physical thing, but the intellectual aspects of it, like making they call it blow, every pass, every blow count, and not wasting energy by, you know, picking them up and moving them. You know, trying to make everything very efficient. And I want to say for the New Zealand method, I think it's the standard they say is 58 blows for the entire sheep. It's like 50 something blows. And I can't do 50 something blows, but I've gotten really efficient. But it took me a long time to have enough experience to where I could now stop focusing on just doing it, but I could actually focus on the technique and how good I am at being precise. And that's kind of how I feel about knitting. I knit for, you know, I've knit since I was, you know, young, like 6 years old, but I never cared about the knitting. I cared about getting whatever it was that I wanted the project done. And now I just really don't, it's not about the project. It's about all of the information. And it's so weird because I'm not a process person. That's the thing that's weird. I'm talking right now, when I talk about what I'm saying, I'm talking about there's the difference between, you know, being a process person and you know, being like a finished object type of person, a person who wants to just have it finished, and the person who enjoys the process. And now I'm enjoying the process, even if that means ripping it out. My socks, you know, 25, 26 times, or, you know, this sweater, having started, this will be my 4th time, I just cast on. It'll be my fourth. And also, you know, just, it's like figuring out a lot of things. Like she casts on, I want to say it's 142. And for me, like after, you know, even though I did a swatch, I was looking at it and the neck at 142 just seemed too big. And so then I'm like, you know, doing calculations to try to get the neck smaller. And I did get the neck smaller. And, you know, you're like, wow, well, let's see how that works out for you. Oh. I think I put my fingerprint right in the middle of my glasses. You guys, that means I'm not going to be able to see. Okay, moving on. We're moving on, baby. I want to, Christine Coggle says something, but I can't read what it is. Let me see. Yeah, okay, yeah, she's, Christina just put this on there, put the pattern on there. And then Barbara's asking if that's the yarn I posted on Facebook, and it is. And then Trishi says it's a really good gradient, and Christine says that too. Do I wear what over my head like that? Jan is making fun of me. She likes to make fun of me. That means she loves me. And gradients are progress versus process. Thank you, Dixie. I'm telling you, no, I'm really, like, I'm really trying to, I actually wish I would have been a little bit more of a process person earlier on. When I teach, you know, because I teach how to, you know, when I teach dyeing, it's so funny because, not funny, haha, but when I was teaching at Stitches in Connecticut, the people were not happy at first. And it was Camp Stitches. And and I finally had to say to them, listen, you guys, it's called yarn dyeing like a pro. It's not called, like, let's just, like, throw stuff in a pot and see what happens. Like, I really teach people. Like, I want people to understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. And so I'm teaching them not just about putting the dye on the yarn. I'm teaching them about why. I said, because what's going to happen is if I don't teach you this, you're going to wonder why the amazing superwash that you did here looks like it does, and you're a genius, and then you go to do a sport weight that's just straight merino and it looks lackluster and you can't get the same results. If I don't, because the first thing, because Reading method is what I teach, and it's a methodology that I learned, that I developed over time. And there's 3 tenets, and the first one is know your canvas. And it's in dyeing that is so crucial, because it's just like a painter. Every time, you know, a painter steps to the canvas, you know, whether it's a canvas or whether it actually, you know, they're doing a watercolor, you know, the canvas always matters. And so I have a friend who does watercolor, and she said that, you know, the grade of paper that she uses totally matters in her work. And I never, you know, it just is one of those things that when you're dealing with a medium that you have, you know, and that you have to have the understanding that all of these things do actually matter, right? And then the second tenet is know your dyes, because all of the dyes behave differently because they're not true pigments. So they're like dyes made up of dye stuffs. They're different, and so they have different molecular sizes, and each of those molecular sizes is going to behave differently. And so I always try to relate it to like PCR, DNA replication. In PCR, there's this preferential binding to certain nucleotides. So if you have low cell numbers, you don't get an accurate footprint really of what it is that you're of the genome of what you're trying to amplify. You can't see certain things because it's not going to be accurate based on this preferential binding. Certain things, nucleotides will bind first, and others won't. And so it's sort of the same thing. Certain particles of the dye will bind first based on their molecular size, and others won't. And so you this preference, and a lot of it's based on the affinity for your canvas. So if I'm using superwash that has, you know, the dye has a really high affinity for it, it's gonna, though that dye's just gonna like magnet to it. And if you have something like just straight merino that's, you know, low luster, it's not gonna look near as nice. It's just gonna be kind of flat. And if I do like a high luster fiber like silk, it's gonna, like, the dye will look completely different. It's really, honestly, it's but I try to teach. So anyway, they weren't looking super happy at first. They thought it was hard and arduous, and I was like, you guys, you just have to, like, you have to stick with it, because this is like the first, you know, the first half of the day. And they would ask questions that you can't, you know, if you're making a split pea soup, you cannot tell somebody everything exactly, because what if that specific ham hock that you bought is saltier than the ham hock that was used for the recipe originally? So you have to deduce, and you have to make these, you have to make adjustments based on your experience, which is the third tenet. Based on your experience in cooking, you know, okay, it's saltier than it should be. I'm going to put a potato in it to try to get rid of some of that salt. So it's sort of the same thing. Like, you can't give an exact amount on these things, because if you know, you've got, you know, I want to say 9 different skeins of yarn, and if we're working with superwash, it's going to take the dye differently than if I give you this, something that's non-superwash, or something that's a long wool. And so anyway, that some of the people would be like, I just want to know exactly how much. And it's like, I'm going to teach you how to tell how much. I can't tell you a specific amount right now, but you will know, because I'm going to teach you how to read it. Just like you don't probably, if you've been baking a long time, you don't have to put a stick in the middle of your baked goods to know whether it's done. You just know. You can touch the top of it and you know. So it's the same thing. But anyway, so Franklin Habit came up to me at lunchtime. It was the first day, and he was like, I heard it's pretty tough. They're treating you pretty tough. And I said, yeah. I said, it's pretty brutal. And he said, just to let you know, he said, my classes are brutal too. He said, but that's what makes good teachers. And he goes, and your students will learn something at the end. They'll love you. And they actually at the end did love me. You're like, wow, we didn't even care about that story. I want to show you something. So I'm dyeing. It's hard because when stuff goes through the internet, I told you, it doesn't look the same color. Like, it looks really lackluster. But anyway, so I dyed this yarn, this bulky yarn. I dyed it for, I'm going to do needle punching. And I'm going to make it for a stool, the top of a stool. I'm going to reupholster the top of a stool. You're like, you have a lot of projects going. No, so this one's wet because I just finished it. So it's still wet, but they're super pretty, huh? And they're going to be flowers. I'm going to make flowers. Going to be little flowers. But I did it in superwash, knowing that people were going to sit on it, and if I didn't do superwash, it would felt from people using it, you know, sitting on it or whatever. So these colors are so bright and vibrant, but they don't look super bright and vibrant in there. Let me see. And I really appreciate you saying it was a well done gradient. Thank you. And then Ms. Shelley is saying, I've taken to fiber dyeing because I do hair and understand your canvas is everything. And yes, it's true. And then Christine Cook is saying, I dye silk in loads of different wools. Always amazed to see how the same colorway works on them. Silk just grabs color. And then she's saying Franklin is so cool. Yeah, I thought it was really nice of him because, you know, I see him at Stitches when I'm there, but, you know, I don't know him very well, but he's always very pleasant. And there was another guy, he always comes with his boyfriend. And at Stitches, they usually take pictures of the teachers afterwards, after the event, and during the banquet. And my corset, I had a corset on it, it came undone, and I couldn't see under my boobs. I could not see under my boobs, and because they're tight. And he fixed it for me. And then I said, can you help me with my corset? And he said, I want to say his name's Jason. His name's Jason, super nice guy. And he said, I've done more corsets in my lifetime than, I think he said, prostitutes have done Johns or something like that. It was something like that. It was really funny. And he fixed it for me. It was nice. Oh, problem solving. So getting back to this thing, this problem solving. So the problem solving on the pattern, I'm gonna talk a little bit about that because I think people are gonna do it. But I'm a huge problem solver. Like that's one of the things that I love in life, is having a problem and being able to figure it out. So actually, did you know that that's a test on that's like a question they ask in a lot of interviews? My cousin was telling me one time, she was telling me that she had a friend, and my cousin's intelligent, so why she gave this as an example, why she was telling me this and thinking it was really funny, I don't know why. But she said, yeah, I had a friend that had a job interview, and they asked her the question, so can you think of a time when you solved a problem? This is just, it's so stupid, but I think about it all the time. And the girl goes, yeah, my blow dryer stopped working, and so I was driving and I rolled down my window and stuck my head out the window and let the wind dry my hair. And I was like, I'm not sure why you're telling me this like it's a good thing. I mean, that was like the stupidest, it was really kind of a stupid answer, really. I mean, I don't know. And what I think of is like a dog sticking their head out. I don't know, that's just, I think I probably would have been able to think of something on the fly faster. You're like, yeah, because you were good on the fly over the stove. A woman didn't want to have her baby die of carbon monoxide poisoning. You guys, come on. Like, who thinks of that on the fly? I don't know why. I guess because I'm a mother. I worry about those things. Okay, so like I was getting ready today for this thing, and I've been actually, I'm really on point about this whole, you know, demonization of wool and protein fibers. And I, like I said, I started a 501c3, which I'm the director of. I'm not on the board, unfortunately. I'm not on the board because it's unethical to be on the board if you are, if you have started it. And so anyhow, though, I was working on a page dedicated to that because it's one of the reasons, like, agriculture is such a deep passion of mine, and it's one of the reasons I started the 501c3, and it's to preserve the fiber arts. It's, you know, learning, it's to preserve the culture surrounding, like, the micro economies around the world, and the micro cultures that we know about, and that we think ones that we don't know about that aren't preserved, because a lot of the people in impoverished countries, the younger people leave, and a lot of these traditions will not be preserved because the older people stay, the younger people leave. But anyway, so as I was getting ready, I was like, I don't know how many of you wear heels, but I wear really high heels in the day. And my shoes, I couldn't find, you have these things that you put in the front so that your so that your foot doesn't slide forward, because then your heel slips out. So if you have these silicone things on at the where your toe is, where the ball of your foot hits, then it pushes your foot back and your heel won't slip out, right? And so I can't find one of them. I cannot find one of them. And so I changed them with my shoes. Like every time I wear a different pair of shoes, I'll pull them out and put them in another pair. And so then I was like, what could I put in my shoes? What could I put? And then I was like, the nipple covers from Nat Geo Wild. So I put nipple covers in them. Is that so problem solving? You're like, it's really great that there's a piece of hair on them. It's a hairy place here. And then look, all of my shoes have this. Because they sink. I aerate my lawn. Every time I walk around, I mean, every single pair of shoes I have has this, where it's dirt. You're like, wow, Natalie, that was thrilling. What a great problem solver you are. I'm sorry. You're like, we know too much about you. You could never know too much about a person. Seriously, I really believe that. And that's the other thing. So I was thinking, so I have this other project that I'm going to be working on, and I really need knitters. I need knitters who knit and who have had interesting, tragic, or in general, just provocative stories. Because I'm writing a book. I'm really actually writing a book. And I'm not going to tell you the title right now, but I am telling you that I really, so if anybody out there would contact me who has provocative stories in their life, hardships, whatever, and why they started knitting, both. And I'm going to choose people, and right, that's what we're doing. That's part of what is going on with Reading Fiber Arts Preservation Society. It's RFAPS. You're like, wow, you had to think of that. Yes, I did. Don't be mean. Don't judge. Stop judging me. Okay. So I'm reading, and then Teresa's like, do I ever sleep? No, I don't. I'm like going 24/7. Of course I sleep. I do sleep, but I don't. I get up at 4 in the morning usually, and I start like ripping my knitting out from the day before. That's what I do. And then I think about restarting it, and then I take a slug of whiskey. Just kidding. I do usually rip my knitting out though in the morning. And then Amy says, I have the stories, but I don't knit. I better get learning. Yeah, Amy, we want stories. We want stories. No, seriously, because, you know, people think of knitters. This is the thing. You don't know that there are people walking among us that you have no idea what their stories, their real stories are. And it's so, until my daughter died, I did not know how many people have children that have died. That I have known for years and years and years and years, and they've never mentioned anything. Until somebody shares their story with you, you have no idea what's happened in their life. I mean, more than that has happened to me in the last couple of years. I have had a very difficult last few years, for sure. And when I tell people my story, you know, first of all, they get bored and say, please shut the fuck up. And I say, no, I'm going to keep going. Just kidding. No, but when I tell people my story, they will open up and tell me their story. And one of the things about knitting is it's a solitary event. And so I have noticed that a lot of knitters, they don't share readily. They don't share. They like kind of are a little standoffish. And I'm a person who's really forthright. And there's really not a question you could ask me that I wouldn't answer. Truthfully. Except, of course, if you're an Airbnb guest and I don't have what you want, then I'll just lie. Note to self. But truthfully, I think that writing a book and having people share their stories in there will help other people that are, especially knitters that are solitary. But ultimately it helps the person. Whenever you share your story, like it's healing. And once again, my mother didn't teach me very many things, but one of them she did teach is not to keep things ever to yourself. That you have to, and that's probably why I'm almost a compulsive teller of, what's going on. Like I really don't, and people, it's not that I don't have a filter. I could if I wanted to, but I choose not to. I rather choose, I'm an extrovert. I rather choose to be really transparent and, say what's going on and say what's, going on in my life, but not at all in a way that's victimizing, because I think that putting anything in the tone of being a victim keeps you victimized, really. Like no matter what, even if someone's wronged you, like if someone's wronged you, then they've wronged you and you have to move forward and it's just gone. It's in the past, it's over, and you just have to move forward. You don't ever want to stay in the past. And that's one of the things that I've noticed too. I do a lot of retreats. People hire me to come and teach dyeing, and I will notice there's always one or two women that are in my age group that will be so stuck on some problem that they have, whether it's an ex spouse that is, sleeping with his secretary. That's a very common one, by the way. And now after 35 years or 30 years of marriage, he's left them, and, she's, devastated, right? And can't believe that she has to start her life over, or whether it's some health problem. I just say you can't, every conversation that you have can't be about that. I've known you 20 minutes and that's all you've talked about the entire time. I'm just straight, because if this problem has been going on for 4 or 5 years, or, and you're talking about it with me for 20 minutes in front of, 20 other people, that's not what you should be leading with, because that's telling me that this is all you think about. And if that's all you think about, you're in purgatory. You are in purgatory. Even my daughter's death, I could sit there and really, punish myself, because of course, you always pretty much, there are things that happen to people that they don't have any, literally that they're tragic and they have no control over and that they didn't participate in whatsoever. But most of the time, things that have happened, we can lay blame on ourselves easily. And so, but if I did that, it's not helpful to me. It's already a living hell, right? And so, but to then compound it by somehow blaming myself, or somehow, thinking that there was something that could be done, or whatever it is, or leading with it in every conversation. I talk about my daughter because I don't want her to be forgotten, but I don't talk about her because I'm a victim, because she was the victim. And also because victimization it's not going to make my life worth living. And victimization of oneself isn't going to make anybody's life worth living, and nobody else around you wants to hear it. We want to hear, you want people to overcome, adversity. You don't want people to stay and wallow in it. And there is secondary gain in that for people. But some people that, people will give them sympathy and they'll pay attention to them. But I would never want attention from sympathy. Because it's very condescending and it feels icky and it feels manipulative, and I don't like it. Anyway, you're like, who gives a shit, Natalie? We really don't care. I'm sharing. Anyway, I'm sharing about the book, why I want to write it, because it's going to help not just the person telling the story, but it's going to help people reading the story. The other thing is, I truly believe that it will have crossover appeal. Okay, and then Gail's saying, can't wait for your Dye Secrets class this Saturday. She's reminding me, Gail's secretly reminding me that it starts this Saturday. You better be there, Natalie. You guys, and she's like, and please don't have a hangover. And then what, I don't know what his name is. He's like, how much cocaine did you sniff? Yeah, I'm sure. It's alfalfa I've been snorting. I think it actually will be a great book. I just timed out Padre, or whatever his name was. But can't you even say that? No, I can't. Anyway, so you guys, this is the deal. I'm going to show you, let's see, besides, oh, this yarn, I want it, okay, so the yarn that I'm making that sweater out of, you're like, oh, we're going back to that. We're making an abrupt change. We are, only because I want to tell you that it's like the coolest yarn I've ever, it's the roundest yarn and the coolest yarn I've ever touched. It's super springy. It's called Crazy Eights. And they call it, it's just a cable yarn. It's listed as a sport weight, and it's listed also as a DK because they consider it when you first get it to be sport weight until you wash it, and then it opens up. So obviously when you're dyeing it, you wash it. And I don't know if you guys can see it very well, but it's super, super round. I'm absolutely in love with it. And super springy. You guys should look it up. Wool to Die For. Wool to Die For, go check it out. It's, once again, it's called Crazy Eights. It's a merino, straight merino superwash. Let me see. It doesn't matter. Okay, hangover's fine. He looks like a troll. Yes, looking forward. Yeah, I'm sure. Well, Gail, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to write one of those books too. I'm serious. Like, I'm really into it because I just feel like I've really noticed that people, I think that I've just noticed that a lot of people in my age group could use to see that they're not alone. And I don't know what, I would be interesting to find out what the percentage of introverts versus extroverts that net are. But I would say this, most of my friends are introverts, and Jan isn't one of them, by the way, nor is Trishy. But I noticed that introverts feel like they need to say that they aren't introverts. They think it's a bad thing. And I actually think being an introvert is a good thing, because deep thinkers, they're deep thinkers. And I love deep thinkers. I love people that are, that share emotion with you, but are stingy with other people. I don't know. It's the exclusivity of it all. I don't know. I'm just really into, and it's so funny, actually, and I've talked about her before, but one of my really good friends, Laura Spinner, and she's a pediatrician. She knows me really well. She's, comes and stays. She would stay, for, a week or more with me several times a year. And we were at Plyway together teaching, and she said, my daughter was sitting there, and I said something that I'm an extrovert, and then Laura looked at me and she said, no, you're not an extrovert. And I was like, and even my daughter looked at her like she lost her mind. And I said, actually, I'm an extrovert. And she's like, no, Natalie, you would rather be like, have a one-on-one conversation than be, and I was like, okay, if you're asking if I'm with you, if I would rather be with you alone than with you with a bunch of people, that's true. I would rather have a conversation, especially with someone I'm close with, right? I just would like to be with them, but that not in a group. But that doesn't mean that I'm at all afraid of being in a group or feel uncomfortable. Like, I get energized from being in a group. And so she looked at my daughter and said, Jade, do you think your mother's an introvert or an extrovert? And she goes, my mother is an extrovert. And then my daughter said, an extrovert is somebody who gets energy from being in a group, and an introvert is somebody who is drained from being in a group. And so, and that actually is one of the ways of, I guess, telling if you're an introvert or an extrovert. And she said, and my mom is definitely an extrovert. And it was so, and then I looked at Laura and I said, what's so funny, I think because you're an introvert, you think that extroverts are like the dumb cheerleader. And you don't think that they're, and she goes, actually, that's kind of true. Like, when I think of, when she thinks, and so it was like a high school thing. It was like a thing that she probably developed in high school, where she was, didn't like these girls that were like cheerleaders and extroverts. And so in her mind, she loved me, and I couldn't possibly be an extrovert. I had to be an introvert because she loves me so much. It's really interesting. It's like that thing where we believe what we want to believe. She's a really good knitter, but what I love about her is I had this pattern that I needed to remember in my head. And, I wrote her and I was like, hey, I need you to fill in the blanks, because she knits all the time, and she likes to knit, a lot of stranded knitting. And I said, and it wasn't hard. I just needed, there were a few little things that I needed to fill in, and she wrote me back and she was like, maybe you should look on Ravelry. I was like, thanks. God, you couldn't even think for a second. Couldn't even think for a second. Come on. Painful. I wanted to show, oh, you guys are just going to laugh, so I don't even want to show you. Not even, yeah, I'm going to show you just because I promised I would. God. Guys, so sad. That's it. My favorite, in this pattern, the one thing that Junko does tell you is don't twist. When you join knitting in the round, don't twist it. And it's like, okay, come on. Like, you could have probably left that part out, because I think we all know that. I mean, really. But you didn't tell me to move my marker, which made me think that I was making a mistake and going in the wrong direction, because you said to move the marker every other time. That was the part. So, of course, then I think like when you're talking to someone like Pat Henley, who knows a lot, it's pretty easy to pretty easy for her to look at something and know exactly what they should do. And so then we sat there and talked intellectually about that. Oh, you're like, could we stay on task? So her whole thing about this short rows and foot rot, she was knitting since she was 4, Pat Henley. Now listen to this. She's probably like 60. Her grandmother had her take pencils with lead in them and go outside on the steps, the limestone steps, and she wanted her to just get rid of all the lead by just like drawing, and getting rid of all of the lead so that she could use these pencils as knitting needles. And then she gave her some butcher's string and taught her to knit with pencils and butcher string. Is that the coolest thing ever? And her grandfather knit also. He was in World War I and would remove the socks from dead soldiers and then use the yarn, and he would teach other soldiers to make socks. Is that crazy? So they would just knit tubes, essentially. Really simple knitting. I mean, there are so many, and the sad thing is, this kind of stuff will be gone. My grandfather was in World War II. He was a paratrooper and he was a prisoner of war, and he's dead. There's no one. It's like these legacies will be gone. It's kind of sad because she's from England. She's from Liverpool. And when you hear her talk, the things that she says, the history that she has in her, it's crazy. And it really is fascinating. I love talking to people and hearing their stories. Let's see. And then Gail is saying, you can be an introvert and super open and talkative, but you describe the difference spot on. This is part of what I teach, is what she said. And what if and then Thorntree is saying, what if you are energized in a group of close friends and family but nervous? Well, then you're probably an introvert. No. Because because you have to understand that is something that that's the first thing that an introvert will tell me is, but when I'm with friends and family, I'm really extroverted, and it's like, but that's what introverts do. Like, if you are only comfortable with people then you're probably an introvert. My husband's a tremendous introvert, and I find it super sexy because I feel really his emotion is only with me. Like, he doesn't share his emotion with anybody. Like our children, he's not an emotive person. He's just not, which is really perfect for my personality because I'm highly emotive. So if you have 2 emotive people, can you imagine? It would be complete and utter chaos, right? And so it really is like the perfect complement. And when I meet husbands that are really talkative and like want to engage, it makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it. Like, it's almost like it's just for men, I like them to like be seen but not heard. You're like, isn't that children? Yes, and husbands, seen and not heard. It's like, I don't know. That's just my thing, baby. That's just my thing. Okay, moving on. We got to move on. So that was my story. You're like, wow, the short rows and foot rot. So why is short rows in there? Because she knit a Sherman, and I think he taught her. It's how they did it. They did a Sherman toe. Is it Sherman short row? Let me look. I wrote it in my notes because I have to have notes for everything just in case. It's pretty. I mean, I could have like Sherman short row, a Sherman short row, and that's how they did the heels too. So they did the toes and the heels, a Sherman short row, and they used yarn that was from something that was a different, you know, a different colorway. So it would be, I mean, that just, she's so fascinating. Her stories are something else. She said that most of the soldiers that died in World War I they died of foot rot. They'd get gangrene of their feet. Is that crazy? I don't know if I'd be removing socks if they were dying of gangrene. I've seen gangrene. It's really, if those of you who haven't, because sheep get it, like blue bag. You're like, we really don't want to hear this, Natalie. But no, it's true. They get blue bag, so you'll just notice that all of a sudden the lambs are losing weight, and you don't know why. And then you will see that the ewes not really moving, but she doesn't look, she's not bloating, but she's not really walking very much. She's just like, seems to be standing, but you know, not, usually when a sheep is sick, their ears really go down like this, and they stand off from the flock. She'll still be with the flock, but she's not like running. And then when she has lambs, though, you know that you need to go check. So then you turn her over, and blue bag is when her teats have gangrene, and like literally. But sheep are amazing. Ruminants can wall off infection from the rest of their body. Like we would die, but they wall it off. It's insane. I'm sorry, I'm reading. And then Miss Shelley's saying, I have my great grandmother's crochet patterns. Oh, that she got as a wedding gift. That's pretty cool. I'm still reading, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's amazing, how I put something on, did you guys see that thing? What did they call it? They called it something. I put, it wasn't needlepoint, it was, what was it that I put on my wall? Someone was selling for $700. They thought it was knit, and it wasn't knit. Do you guys remember what that was? What the term, someone knew what it was. A couple people knew what it was. Wait, I don't want to look. But it's really, I put a picture of it. If you guys go to Facebook and go to my wall, it's Facebook, Namaste Farms, /Namaste Farms. And you'll see it on my wall. She wanted $700 for it. She described it as being knit. It wasn't knit. And so I put it on my wall and asked what it was. And a few people knew what it was. And then I wrote her and told her. Let me see if I have it in my email. And she was very appreciative. And I actually wish I could buy it. But the woman, her great grandmother did it, and then she said that I said she must be very talented, and she said she was very talented. But I don't know why you would want, I guess, you know, if you're not gonna, it doesn't, I don't know, I kind of feel bad that she would sell that. You know, but it's just more stuff maybe. You just, you end up getting stuff. How do I not see it in here? I don't see it in here, and I really want to know. I wanted to, oh my gosh. You guys, let me see if you guys remember what it was. It was not cross stitch. It was, well, yeah, but it was something. It was a special kind. You guys are like, this is really boring. Can you just have someone tell us? That's so strange why it's not in here. Oh, here it is. It is counted cross stitch. It's counted cross stitch, and I said, and definitely not knit. It's so incredibly cool, and it's on Craigslist in San Diego. So you guys can go and try, and it said vintage hand knit blanket. So if you Google San Diego Craigslist vintage hand knit blanket, it's really incredible. And then Jan's asking what size needles is that sweater knit on. Okay, so the sweater, once again, the Igawa sweater is knit on a size 5 needle, and but she uses fingering weight. So I switched to a size 4 needle, and I had to switch to a size 4 needle and put it and use DK weight because I am a loose knitter. And so, and it feels like I was about this far before I ripped it out, and it felt perfect. Felt like it was perfect. So for me, and I know Jan, I thought you were a little bit of a loose knitter too. Yeah, and then Christina is saying that we need to do a knit along with that sweater. That was the idea. That's the idea, you guys, is a knit along with that sweater. So it'll be in Reading Method group. So what it is on Facebook. You go to facebook.com/groups, and then I think it's /Reading Method. And join that group, and we're going to do the knit. But I want to make sure, I wanted to start it and make sure that it's going to be, because it's not a super hard pattern. It's not the pattern that's hard. You know, there's short rows in it, but it's just because the writing sometimes, and and also because you know, like English is her second language, so I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to have me specifically, you know, somebody like Pat would never have a problem with it because she just looks at something and sees it. I have to look at it and try and figure out what we're doing. Like at first when I looked at it, I thought maybe we were shaping the neck because it's top down, so it's knit in the round top down, and but we're shaping the shoulders first. And so once I understood that we were shaping the shoulders first, then I understood, you know, it's like a typewriter, you know, as you knit and you're starting on, you know, I had to visualize that we're actually shaping the left shoulder first, and then we're increasing 4 on this side before we move to this side. And then once we move to this side, then we do increases, and then we do a wrap and turn, and then we do increases again, same thing. And then when it's like a typewriter, and once I visualize that, then I understand. But it takes me a little bit, and then I have to talk to someone and tell them what I think, and then have them tell me, no, you're wrong and stupid. And then I say, thanks, that hurt my feelings. But no, seriously, I have to be able to visualize it so that I know what I'm doing and where I'm going with it. Because if you're just knitting blindly, then you can read something wrong. And I think it is better to hash out the pattern and understand what's going on, so that I wanted to make all of these mistakes and get this going so that somebody else doesn't have to slog through it and then get frustrated. Because if I would have done this 5 years ago, I would have just said, fuck it, I'm not doing it. I'm just not. And I would have went back to my favorite V-neck sweater pattern that I have in my head. But I don't want to do that. I want to be more of a process person. I want to get better. And so I want us all to do a knit along. And it's really, this is the thing, is that, you know, and completing projects like that makes you feel so successful. I think I honestly think we should all dye the yarn. Don't forget, I'm teaching yarn dyeing like a pro at Stitches in Taos, New Mexico in June. Right before I go to England for 3 weeks to pick up fleece. Like I need any more fleece. I've got to get rid of this fleece, you guys. I have thousands and thousands of pounds. It's absurd and obscene. And my plate, like I tried to walk through here. I can't tell you how many times I eat shit because I'm just stepping on so much. It's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. It's actually getting on my nerves. I want this studio to be organized, and, you know, and especially now that I want to really get into knitting. And so I have a lot of hand-dyed yarns, and I want those, you know, I don't have room for it. And I have a whole, oh my God, you guys have no, I'm not even going to talk about it because it's, and then, Jan said I would be dead by the time I finish that. Jan, petite point. Wait, Myra's saying petite point. She said cross stitch and petite point. It was, I don't know what the other one, because I don't cross stitch, so. That's so silly. Jan spun all this yarn for her granddaughter and knit this tiny little sweater. It was so cute. You did such a good job on that. I was really impressed. And then Jan saying the biggest problem with knitters is they use bad patterns. Well, how about the biggest problem with knitters, knitwear designers, is they write bad patterns. You know, I think what happens too is when you're at that level of expertise too, you just assume that you kind of forget where your roots are. I mean, we all, you know, I think this about like movie stars, etc., like, you know, Tiger, as I say it all the time, that once you get that revered, you are so disconnected with reality. And politicians, the same thing. Like, you're so disconnected from reality that you don't know what it's like to be a real person and have real problems. I'm dead serious. I feel that way. And I can't remember where I heard it. This is paraphrasing. I think it could be, I want to say Eckhart Tolle, who, by the way, changed my life. I don't know him personally, but I will tell you, he changed my life. He really did. Like, my whole spiel about, you know, not living in the past and like changing your perspective on things so that you can, you don't have to suffer, and so that you can not be a victim, came from Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. But you have to be ready to listen to it, because if you're not, you're just going to be like, would he just shut up? Okay. And then Jan saying, okay, that was tiny. If I knit it for me, it would be an Afghan. Jan, stop it. Would not. It's your, Jan, that's your total style. You know, that's like Log and Look, you guys. Have you ever looked up Log and Look? So that's, I'm into Log and Look. Like, it's, so it's layered. It's layered. So you'll see, like, especially if you go on eBay or something, it's linen, because I'm really into wearing linen. but log and look, and it's just like layered clothes. And there's this oh my gosh, what is his name? There's a great designer. But his stuff is so expensive. I've never been able to afford anything of his. Like $500 for like a t-shirt. Really expensive, but all of it is like very boxy, you know, and like really wide leg pants, boxy, and it just. But I love his stuff, and it's always in like, you know, solid colors. You're like, that sounds almost like it's a China circa 1970. Everything black, gray, and white, and like boxy. That's what it was. I was there in the because when I was modeling, I modeled in Hong Kong for 4 years, and they would send me to China, and I'm not kidding you. Even then, there was really no color. There was no color anywhere. I remember the one thing that I loved is it was the first time I ever had lai cheese, and they would say lai chi la, and the other thing was turtle soup, and there's one the soft shell crab, and you eat the shell like blue crabs. I think blue crab they were and they'd make the soup and put it in these giant melons, like these huge melons. And a lot of, you know, the people in China at the time, they had never seen a Caucasian person. Like, you would draw a crowd wherever you went. It was really, like, it was actually intimidating because they're, the 18 inches of space, I don't think that's the norm. Like, you felt like I'd get really nervous. It would make me feel really, really uncomfortable. I didn't like it. But like, if you were, when they were, like, we do film, actual film, like for commercials, and then do a lot of print. And if you were doing film, then there would be people usually. And if we were doing print and it was out in the public, then they would you would draw a huge crowd. But it was actually a very interesting experience, especially now that at the time, Hong Kong was an English colony. So there were a lot of Caucasian people in Hong Kong, not in China. Now, but it was like leased until 1997. And in 1997, it went back to the Chinese. And I would work with a lot of the sifus. Sifus is the pattern makers. So I would also do a lot of fittings because it's a huge, you know, garment. The garment industry is very large there. And then Gail saying she loves log and look, and then Bridget's laughing. Okay, so that's it. So we're gonna do a knit along, and we're gonna do this pattern. So everybody has to buy it. So it's the Agawa. I'm gonna show you again. She's going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm selling a lot of patterns. And I'm going to hammer out all of this stuff for you. All of the, you know, the glitches. Right there. You buy it on Ravelry. Junko Akamoto. And then, you guys, you should dye your own yarn, though. You really should. Maybe we should do a yarn dyeing class beforehand. They've been trying to get me because people keep asking for it, but I'm, you know, I've got other things going on in my head. I'm trying to, like, I need to get Reading Fiber Arts Preservation Society, 501c3. I need to get that, and I need to finish this project. And I really want to get rolling with this, you know, promoting agriculture. And Airbnb has experiences. Do you guys know? Did you know that? So there's Airbnb experiences, and people like me put essentially like classes or things up, and then people come to your place and they learn. And that's one of my outreach to the community, because the best way to teach people about agriculture is in this kind of a setting, because they're already coming here. They're coming here from the city, from Los Angeles or wherever, because Temecula is a destination, and they want something to do in the day. And then I teach them that agriculture isn't downed cows and the tractors, and it's not mule sing, and not to hate wool, and why they should hate plastics. I mean, that's all my research today, because one of the things I learned in embryology, and I think I mentioned this, was that that there are estrogens that leach from plastics, and they used to think it was just the BPA plastics, and that but it's not. It's actually from almost all plastics. And turtles, their gender is not determined before they're in the egg. When they're in the egg, it's not already predetermined. It has to do with the temperature, and then things like estrogens. And so it can actually change the sex of turtles and other reptiles. And it can feminize male fish and feminize male reptiles. And that's all from plastics. And we're talking, and so when I was doing micro manipulating the embryos in during my thesis, one time we ordered a bunch of new glassware, and we washed them, and then all of our embryos were dying. And it's because they had coated the glassware with some chemical. And it was very difficult to, I mean, it's really, this is a problem. I mean, it's a problem. And then there's also the issue of, and the breakdown of, and polyester, you guys, is plastic, PET. It's the same thing that this is made from. Just to let you know. And what happens is the breakdown from polyester, even when you're like putting them in the dryer and all of that fluff, those microplastics, that almost every marine mammal that they cut open, or marine animal that they cut open that's died, has plastics in its gut. I mean, it's just the way it is. There's no way that plastics are better than wool. I am sorry. But everybody will say, well, they're making, you know, they're making seaweed pleather now. Well, you can't afford it. And you're still dyeing it. They're still dyeing it, and we all know that mordants are used. It's made, you know, or like sea cell. It's the seaweed or the bamboo or it's just like, you guys, you know, you're really like, this is a stretch here, trying to say that that's more environmentally friendly than wool. Please. Yeah, whatever. Okay, and then Patty just put the pattern, where to buy the pattern up to. I'm trying to, okay, there you go. Okay, Gail, we'll see ya. It does not have cables, Bridget. I'm sorry, I'm reading you guys. And then Gail saying, in Logan look is quite colorful in Europe. That's so funny. Okay. Anyway, I'm just reading to see what did Myra say? And Myra saying she could do a crochet sweater. Okay, thank you for posting that, by the way, Patty. But anyway, okay, so like I'm really getting on that, and this promoting agriculture in a positive way, because there's so many people that are against agriculture, and I recognize that, you know, when I say agriculture, it's because it's farming in general. You know, what people look at people that are animal scientists that are farmers of animals as being abusive and horrible, and it's just simply not true. And it really bums me out. I had a live stream account. I saved one of my, I mean, a lot of people saw it. There were hundreds of people saw it when it was happening in real time. I had a goat that was born, and she was like dead, basically, really. And my husband had got her just in time. Her mother didn't pay attention to her, and she was frozen. And he brought her in the house, and I started live streaming. It was like 5 in the morning or something. And I started live streaming and trying to save her. It took hours of resuscitating her, like literally doing chest compressions. I'm not kidding you. And like and blowing air into her, putting my mouth over her nose and mouth, and it took hours, and she was just like like gone, like completely limp. And her name's Kimberly, and I still have her. And that was like 6 or 7 years ago. And people like watched it like literally in real time to see if I had no idea if it was what was going to happen. I didn't know if I was going to be able to bring her back, but I was fine. Amazing. The whole thing is amazing, and that's what farmers do. You do everything you can, hours, to save them. Even ones you know, even people that raise meat animals that they know are going to end up being slaughtered. If they were born like that, they would spend hours and hours and hours trying to save it, because it's not, when those kind of things are happening, you're not looking at time versus how much the animal's worth. You're looking at, my job is to raise something and to keep it alive. And I will do whatever it takes to do that. However much time it takes, I will do it. That's how farmers feel. They're not the people that, you know, like, I don't know, apparently one of the problems with the mohair, you know, people out, you know, not wanting mohair, like Ralph Lauren, etc., is that somebody like videotaped something happening in South Africa, so they banned mohair. And it's like, but what about America? America's like 2nd or 3rd in the world for mohair production. So you're going to ban mohair, but now you're hurting our farmers. We didn't do it. Plus, I guarantee it's not the farmer. It's like some worker. It's not the person that owns the animals. It's somebody, and we know that there's rogue people. Hey, I had a guy work here. Oh my God, this is years ago when I actually had employees. And I want to say it was like 7 or 8, 9 years ago. And I walked out. He didn't know I was there, and I just hired him to help clean up the barn. And he kicked at one of my turkeys in a really mean way. He lasted about 3 or 4 more seconds. I said, "Get the fuck out. Did you ever do that?" And it was like, it might have been even just been a reflex, but I didn't care. I don't want any sort of reflex like that around my animals. If I did it, that would be different. But him doing it, no way. And Gail's saying, I grew up on a farm, and you're so right. It's a love and a lifestyle. Yes, it is. Oh my God, Barbara said she saw that. I'm telling you, there's a lot of people, hundreds of people saw it. Thank you. It was amazing, and it was, but she was like literally, you guys, and this is no exaggeration. She could not even, she was gone. Her head was just like, and she couldn't even pick her head up. And then like slowly after a couple of hours, she finally could pick her head up. I could not believe it. And I was sure she was going to be brain damaged, which I know you're like, well, how would you know if a goat was brain damaged? I was sure she was going to be brain damaged. And she wasn't. Jory actually helped me. Jory was there, the kids, a couple of the kids, because I couldn't do everything by myself. And, I needed help, I needed more warmth because I needed things heated up, and I was trying to get her warm and just pull her out of it. It's just amazing that I still have her. And she's out there. She's a pain in the ass, though, because she doesn't have, she's just not like a normal goat. Like, she doesn't have normal goat. She doesn't follow them. She thinks she's more like us, and so she doesn't listen to the dogs. She's just a pain, but I love her tremendously. Okay, you guys, let me see. Is there anything else? Okay, I think I'm supposed to go over some things. Oh, I remember. What Kristen and Trishy, oh my God, you guys. What Kristen and Trishy say. Because they want me to bring up some stuff. What Kristen and Trishy say. Let me go and see if I put my notes in here. You guys are like, are you really going to do that? You're going to read more. You're like, this is really thrilling now. Yes. And then frog. Well, the frog part I already talked about. Frog is my middle name. Because I keep ripping everything out. But I told you why. I rip everything out because now it's not about the finished project. And now let me just tell you something. Because I don't care about the finished project, I care about the process. I'm actually enjoying it. You're like, you're enjoying ripping everything out? Yes, I am. I actually am. Okay, so what Trishy and Kristen, why am I having a problem with their names? I actually know it. The Fix It class, they're moving the dates so that, because people, okay, it's the Fix It. If it's broke, fix it on fixing your dying. And I'm telling you guys, you have no idea. I will teach you how to fix problems. And there are a lot of things that can go wrong. It's a 4-day short course. It's like, an hour and a half a day for 4 days. And usually people only get to watch it for a week after the last class airs. This is for the short courses, not for the long ones, not for the ones that are 7 classes long. And then they're 14 with the study session. A new session of Die Secrets starts on Saturday. And that's the longer session one that then you get a month after the last class airs. And you can watch it as many times as you want for a month after the last class airs. This one is the short course, and everybody gets to watch it until January 7th. So that's a lot. That's longer. They just decided that. And I said, fine, whatever you guys want to. And then they said, we can offer 1 or 2 spots for the Fix It class or for the Die Secrets class, just 1 or 2. They're going to pick for anybody, for the first 2 people to ask them, either Kristen or Trishy on Facebook. So you would have to message them. So Kristen Davidson or Trishy, Trishy. So you will get a discount if you are interested. I think 10% or 15%. I'll just say 15% because I can't actually remember. Is it 20%? I can't remember. So we'll just say it's at least 15%. I'll just say that because we would like to help people, especially during the holiday season. And the classes aren't super cheap because that's just the way it is. Because my information is valuable and I try really hard. You're like, really? Because you were drunk or hungover on I'm Sunday. I'm sorry. That was the one time. Still can't believe that I forgot to put wash and dye in my. I just cannot. You guys, I literally, I felt fine in the morning, but I wasn't obviously fine. I was stupid. Okay. Okay, you guys. So other than that, and then Jan saying, that's not true, Jan. Lately, I've had an hour and a half. She goes, you've never had an hour and a half class, meaning because I always go over. Jan, I actually have, I'm telling you, teaching for Stitches has really helped me. They have made, I'm way more concise. I get to the point. She's like, no, you don't. Yes, I do, Jan. Stop it. I do get to the point. I get to the point, and I'm just better because I've been doing it for so long. You're like, you better be better. You guys, how bright are these colors? I mean, I wish you could see it in this. I don't think you can. But I'm telling you, that smells like sheep. this one. I mean, it's so bright. It's so pretty. These are such beautiful colors. The punch needle that I will do with this is going to be outrageous. I think this is a good rate. I might dye a yellow. There is a yellow one. Where's the yellow one? I actually do have it. Did I drop it outside? Oh my God. I think I did. Because there's a yellow one too. And this is it's so soft. But it's so bulky you couldn't really make, I mean, I guess you could make it's a single. It's not pied. It's just a single. It's really nice. Actually, it's extraordinarily soft. Okay, let's see. Okay, you guys, let's see. That's it. I hope that I'm going to see you next week, same time, same place, and hopefully I will be a lot further on my sweater than cast on. Actually, I'm going to join it tonight, and I'm going to get to the first. It's going to take me 4 rows to get to the short rows. I'm going to do the first set of short rows, and then move over to the other shoulder, and then move on. And I really hope it's successful, and I don't do something stupid. And this isn't splitty yarn either, by the way. And I'm selling. I have this yarn for sale. Actually, it's on Facebook.com/teaswatersheep. You guys are like, you can't even remember that. Facebook.com/teaswatersheep. You guys, please subscribe to my channel. But anyway, but it's obviously it's not dyed. But I do have some yarns for sale that I have dyed. I just don't put them up. You guys, it's too time consuming. I have so much going on. I'm trying. I'm really trying, and I need to. Anyway, okay, you guys. That makes me feel good, Gail. You're making. I really actually need the revenue too, so I appreciate it. She's a very nice lady. Okay, I will see you in the same time, same channel. Bye, you guys. Thank you so much. Blessings.